gonna say, don't you have a personal injury lawyer in your firm?
We don't. We have partners that we refer to.
When you guys are live, I'm gonna check.
Did you realize my tummy backwards? All right. So we are live on
Facebook, TikTok.
Instagram.
So you can do your intro, Dave. Go ahead.
Hold on, let's make sure that the sound quality is on point. He's gonna make sure that we got our Facebook and we're else live kind of thing. Yada, yada.
Okay, everything's good to go.
Cool.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the PowerCast live with you every Tuesday night. Eric on your far right, of course, myself, and you've got two very special guests in front of you. We have Jay Hirschman and Lauren Scotton from Bailey and Hirschman. But before we get started, I want to make sure you know how to get in touch with us always. Go to our YouTube channel, type in Team Powerhouse Real Estate, hit subscribe. Make sure to join us every week. Share us with your friends and family. Follow us on Google, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Anywhere you want us to be, we're here for you. Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, live with you every week. And we are excited to have very special guests. Again, Jay and Lauren from Bailey and Hirschman with some powerful knowledge, letting you know about not only real estate law, but a little bit deeper and kind of intimacy about what happens in buying a home and then some.
How the sausage is made.
How the sausage is made. I love that.
Now, Jay's a returning guest.
Jay,
As most of you should know.
Jay's going to be leaving in about 20 minutes. His son is in the World Series of playoffs for baseball.
Cheshire Youth Baseball playoff game.
So we're going to make sure he gets home and can see his boy play. So let's dive into it right away.
Wait, first off, we didn't get, Dave and I didn't get the memo on the dress code, so
Yes.
you'll excuse the,
More casual side on the
Yeah.
ends.
Michael Cristoforo said Jay and Lauren are the best.
Thank you, Michael Christopher, for paying attention,
Thank
watching
you,
us for the
Michael.
show tonight, and of course, telling how amazing these people are.
Thank you.
You know, Michael always talks about you guys. He loves you.
Mortgage
You know-
Mike.
He know Mortgage Mike.
Mortgage
He
Mike.
knows that if you guys are involved, he has nothing to worry about. He can put his hands in his pockets and relax. That
I've been working with Michael for a very long time, so.
it's he's a guy in the business for
It's
30
having
years.
a great team is really important, as you know.
Absolutely, synergy.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, so a little background on Jay and Lauren. Again, Jay's a returning guest. Lauren is in the hot seat, but we'll just kind of go over both of them so you both know who they are. We really appreciate you guys watching us tonight.
what firm are they with, Dave?
Bailey and Hirschman, located on 90 Hinman Street in Cheshire, and also a few other locations which you'll find out about today. All right, so Jay Hirschman from, where you from?
I grew up in Cheshire, and I didn't go far. I
Didn't
stayed
go
in
far.
Cheshire.
And Miss Lauren.
So I'm originally from Dutchess County, New York,
Oh,
and then came to Connecticut and just stayed.
very cool.
Yeah.
Eric's from New York.
Nice.
Not
Yeah.
New York. It's in
Queens
New York
County.
side. Queens-
Okay.
So we got the New York side and the Connecticut side over
That's
here.
right.
Queens
And I will
County.
say, but
Kings County,
Yeah.
it's
Nassau
not-
County.
It's not often that Lauren gets upset at other attorneys and yells, but when she does, you hear her New York accent.
That's right.
come
I
out.
use my New York voice.
I love it. I love it. That's good. That's power.
It is.
It is power.
It is.
It's scary when you hear some New York yell.
Oh, people get intimidated when
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And you do a lot of yelling in New York, so.
I love it. Where'd you guys go to school?
I got my undergraduate degree at Bucknell University in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania.
Wow, good
And
school.
yeah, terrific school, go Bison. And I got my law degree at Quinnipiac.
Very cool. Now, is that ironically how you ended up in Connecticut by chance? Or
Yes.
That's pretty
Yep.
cool
Came
stuff.
to Connecticut for law school and then stayed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Go Bobcats.
Go Bobcats.
And Jay Hirschman?
I went to Bryant University in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Go Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs.
And Quinnipiac University for law school.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you saw Lauren come in and she was a Quinnipiac grad for law school, you were like, is that how it happened? Was it like,
Yeah, well, you know, they say at Quinnipiac, they teach you how to be lawyers.
Yeah.
And they really do versus some other law schools. So when you see someone who went to Quinnipiac, you know they know how to be a lawyer.
they,
There's still a lot of on-the-job training,
of
but
course, of course.
Lauren was a great fit for our office, and
And I never left.
she never left. So.
Amen. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And let's see, what was your major in college? I assume law. I mean, but what if it's more law?
No, in undergraduate, I I majored in political science, which is sort of the go-to for lawyers. Not super practical as a degree.
Yeah.
But then I went to law school at Quinnipiac and got my law degree there.
Poli-sci's got some different levels to adapt on it too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know really what you do with it, other than become a lawyer or like a civics teacher. It's really not a useful degree. It's terrific. Love Bucknell, it was worth it. But yeah, unless
Mom
you
and
become
Dad
a
are watching that
poor
Yeah.
parents. No, it was 100%.
All the kids that are in school now with poli-sci going, oh, I chose the wrong one.
You did.
Because I don't want to be a lawyer.
You did, yeah. You can become a teacher. We need teachers.
We definitely need teachers.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of things going on in poli-sci. There's,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
math and science, right? I mean, like, am I
No
wrong?
math and science.
Nope.
No, I
Poli-sci.
started at Bucknell as a physics major, and I quickly
Jesus.
learned that I could not do calculus.
Oh, wow.
You know, hopes and dreams. At 18, you're like, you can do anything.
Well, good to know,
You
right?
can't. Yeah, no. And so I quickly switched majors, yes.
That's
So
pretty
no
cool.
math and science and political science.
That's interesting. You know, it's a funny story. I couldn't pass accounting in college. I was a business major. And I quickly was told, you need to switch.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get thrown out.
Yeah.
Ended up switching to psychology, which of course we use every day in our business lives.
Yes.
But you're better at
Very
accounting
true.
now, right? For those
No.
folks who are writing. You mean for the folks that you're writing all these contracts for, your math is much better now, right?
We have accounting and math, or, anyway, no, yes and no.
Yeah.
Oops. I can do some adding and subtract, no problem.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eric.
Well, that's why we became lawyers, because we don't do the math.
Yes.
You know, that's just,
We
not what we do.
leave it to math people for the math.
that's right.
That's right, especially the calculus.
Yes, yeah.
Couldn't do calculus, nope.
That makes two of us.
But, yeah, so anyway.
Well, so if anybody has any legal questions regarding purchases and sales or anything like that, shoot them on over. If we don't cover it today, but shoot it to us now so that we can get it in.
Good point. These guys are experts in real estate law as well as any kind of law that you may have questions on. That's not true. Actually.
That's not even wrong.
Real estate questions, definitely hit us up, and as Eric mentioned, that's a good point, Eric. If we don't get to them at this time, we can get to them later on.
And they're free. Right?
This part.
This part is free, so get your questions in now.
I guess the first question is, do they have their names and phone numbers available to the people outside the world watching? When I say world, we have people all over the world watching us
Very
live.
cool.
Big following in Peru.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very true. All right, so I got sidetracked using characters.
So you said expert, so
Well, right, that's a very good
that's a
segue.
good segue.
All right, so what do you guys specialize in?
Real estate.
Yes.
So as an attorney in
Yes.
Connecticut, you can't say that you specialize or that you're an expert.
Really?
You cannot, except unless
You've taken a horrible test and been qualified as an expert. So I know, I think there's a workers' comp test. So if you have taken that test, you can say you're a workers' comp specialist. And there is now a residential real estate specialist exam
Really?
that Jay and I have both taken and passed, and we're 2 of 14, I think, in the state at this
No
point.
kidding.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So, and it's quite a test. It was, I've been doing this I've been practicing law for about 22 years. I took it, I think it was
Probably 3
20
years ago.
Yeah, 2020-ish, and I really studied.
You're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was.
No pressure.
Brutal.
Right,
It was
so-
brutal.
Wow. That,
We're pretty proud of
if
it.
they gave us the real estate test again, I think we'd have a little bit of a problem. Because in our business especially, most of
Speak
it's.
for yourself.
Yeah. Most of the stuff we learn is on the spot kind of things happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like your daily lives as far as legal stuff with real estate, I mean, you know it as it comes in. I'm sure you guys see things for the first time you've never seen before. We're in
Every
unprecedented
day.
time, right? It's
Always,
Crazy
always.
stuff that's happening over here.
It's amazing, you think you've seen every problem and you see something new.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's wild. The new things that come up that you think you would never see.
Right.
Just wait,
Unbelievable.
just wait.
Where do you guys have offices? Where's your location for offices?
So we're based in Cheshire,
Yes.
and we have an office in Fairfield, where Attorney Tamara Peterson is, and an office in Greenwich,
Oh, wow.
where Attorney Jillian Ingraham is,
Wow.
and an office in Danvers, Mass., which is the North Shore of Boston, and Attorney Gary Kravitz covers
Oh,
Massachusetts.
Gary's, no kidding, I didn't know Gary covers
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
he's Connecticut and Mass,
That's pretty cool,
but yeah.
no idea.
Yeah.
You guys covered the whole state and then some, that's
Yeah.
in depth right there. That's impressive. How has technology changed how you do business today? I mean, technology's growing so fast, so many things happening we're going through this new MLS thing, which is insane.
Yeah.
18 years in the business, and now I gotta learn how to do MLS all over again. So how has it worked for you guys?
So, COVID accelerated a lot of things related to technology because people were remote.
Yeah.
So, all of a sudden, we had to figure out a way to get real estate done. Because as you know, it was a busy time,
Absolutely.
and we had to get transactions
People
closed.
weren't coming into the offices, and we had all this. So that leads us to the next question I was gonna ask you about, going into like how things have changed with making contracts and signing contracts and papers and papers, I can't talk.
Well, no, circling back to that, because of COVID, I know that a lot of closings were like, we couldn't attend a closing, let's say. Did they transform some of the stuff that folks could sign to electronic because of that?
Yeah, so there's something called RON, which is Remote Online Notarization.
Oh,
And
wow.
that had some traction before COVID. States like Virginia, Florida had remote notaries. And so, often we get asked, do I have to come to closing? Do I need to be there? Because people are so used to DocuSigning.
Right.
And the reason you do need to be there in Connecticut, yes, you have to go, is because there are documents that need to be notarized. So you need to sit with a notary, and a notary can only notarize documents in person in Connecticut. So this technology called RON, Remote Online Notarization, had some traction. During COVID, the governor signed an executive order that implemented something called RIN, which is Remote Ink Notarization. So Dave, I know we were on some closings where we're all on video screens.
Right.
And there were a bunch of other rules we had to follow and affidavits we had to sign, but we were allowed to notarize through an electronic method.
It's funny, I almost forgot all about that because it seems like it happened in that moment in time in our lives where it was so crazy. But yeah, that's crazy stuff with this electronic signatures and RIN. So you get RIN is.
RIN, so now the executive order is expired, we can't do that any longer. The legislative session just ended in Connecticut and RON did not pass. So we're one now of about probably 7 or 8 states that do not have remote online notarization.
Wow.
Most of the country has remote online notarization.
So how does that work? I mean, obviously people are moving from state to state. That's gonna hinder people in Connecticut in that whole process.
Well, you think about, how much easier it will make life for people who are moving.
Yeah.
They can go to wherever they're going. I have a client moving to Louisiana, he can go to Louisiana and sign his documents electronically down there, if we had remote online
Do
notarization.
you think it'll come, I'm just asking, do you think it'll come back that way? I think it's a good idea that would make it easier.
Yeah, so there's something at the federal level called the Secure Act, and that's an act that would basically level the playing field among states and allow for remote online notarization. So if that passes, it will come to Connecticut. I think eventually it's going to come to Connecticut. It makes a whole lot of sense for people, particularly, not just in real estate closings. There may be documents that you need notarized when you buy a car.
Right.
That's
That's a good point. As a matter of fact, you just reminded me of a story. I just bought my son a car without even seeing the car, and I was supposed to get all the VIN information and then go to a notary. I have to find a notary, have them notarize the information and send it to them, which I still haven't done like a month ago. Oops.
So, yeah, so if it can be done electronically, we
Right.
can schedule an appointment and do it from your phone. And now with multi-factor identification,
Right.
there's a lot of technology out there to safeguard the process.
All right, next question for you. What is a hybrid closing?
Yeah, so we get this question a lot. And hybrid closing is a combination closing of DocuSign and ink signing. And so a lot of banks out there are going to electronic closings. It makes a lot of sense for banks because they can make sure the documents are signed correctly. Because as you know, you can't skip, you have to hit each mark when you're signing electronically. So a hybrid closing, the bank will send you documents, has to be the day of closing. So you cannot sign your documents in advance. It has to be that day at 12:01 a.m. An email goes out.
Yeah.
You sign your documents electronically, and then you come to our office and you sign documents in our office. Now, the pile that you sign in our office is about a quarter of what it would be
So that's
if you
when,
were.
But, to be clear, this is on the purchase side.
This is on a
Correct,
purchase
yes,
side,
yeah,
correct, yes.
it's actually something that's, for example, let's say Michael Cristoforo with guaranteed rate has that,
Flash close.
flash close, or
Mhm.
just change it into, yeah, the same idea. So when your clients get to the closing table, they basically click, 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 click on their phone, or their iPad or computer, sign about 80 pages in about 30 seconds,
Mhm.
and then they come to see you guys, and got like 10 more pieces of paper to sign or something like that, or much less.
Yeah,
Much
there's,
less.
there's much less than
Much
what it would
less.
be. Yeah.
Love the hybrid closing, love it.
Now,
It's
the
like-
hand signatures, those are government documents that require a wet signature?
It's, yeah, typically things that require a notarization.
Okay.
Very cool stuff. And I know you have to get going, so please, Jake, forgive me, I'm gonna ask you one more question.
Yeah.
Why do I have to wire funds for my closing?
This is another question that we get a lot, and it's, when the day of closing comes and you get the final number that you need to bring into closing, how do I get that money to you? And it has to be a wire transfer. And the reason for that is we need good funds.
Yes.
So the seller's attorney, if you're the buyer, is gonna want that money the day you buy the house. They don't want it 3 days
True.
later. They want it the day you buy the house. So has to be a wire transfer, because a wire transfer is the only way to ensure that we have good funds. Even a bank check isn't immediately available.
Right.
It takes a day to clear.
By the way, everybody, we have a bunch of questions for Lauren. We're just giving Jay a quick in and out so he can go see his boy.
Yeah.
You know, we have a great topic. I mean, this great topic coming up over here with Lauren is gonna blow you away, especially for you investors out there. So I do appreciate your time over here today. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I was just gonna say, I wanted to add, there's a tremendous amount of wire fraud out there.
Yes.
So anytime you're wiring money, stop. Call the person you're sending the money to, pick up the phone, physically call them, speak to somebody live, and confirm those wire instructions.
We make our clients sign a wire fraud document before even going into the buying process. And I always tell them, if you receive an email that says to wire anybody money, pick the phone up and call your attorney, or call us, but don't just wire money to anyone, because you got people that are sending you emails to wire them money, you think it's your attorney, and then voila.
And, there's people out there that their full-time job is trying to figure out how to scam people out of money.
It's
So-
crazy.
Pick up the phone and call, don't just send. If you get an email looks like it's from someone involved in the transaction, call. Takes 2 seconds to call them, and much better to be safe.
Absolutely. Jay, thank you so much for being with us
Oh,
here
my
today.
pleasure.
I
I
appreciate
love
it.
coming, I could talk to you guys all day.
Thanks, Jay.
So I appreciate it.
Jay Hirschman, everybody from Bailey and Hirschman. His name and number's on the screen over there. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to him. They might actually have his cell number. I hope they do. Oops. We have a cell
I'm
number.
going to change my cell phone number.
We'll have to get the phone number for the office on the screen also.
Yeah, 272-7000, and Warren, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
All right, we're going to move this chair right out of the way. We can get nice and cozy.
Roomy.
All right, Miss Lauren Scotton
Yes.
from Bailey and Hirschman, everybody. She's very smart. She's got a lot of knowledge to share with you. And we're going to talk about something that a lot of people have been asking about. And it has to do specifically, what should people know about buying a multifamily property? Now, if you're out there, you thought, I want to buy a multifamily, I want to buy my first investment property, what is the process involved?
But it's not even just that. I'm working with at least 2 folks who are looking for single family, but they can't find single family. So they decided, you know what, I'm just gonna buy a multi.
Sure.
It wasn't on an investment purpose, it was,
Right.
they're just expanding the options that they have.
Yes.
Sure.
So if there are particulars to buying a multifamily that they're not aware of, this is where,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, just want to make sure over there thing in the background, obviously all our sound quality is doing really well. And secondly, I want to make sure all our cameras are still focused. Now we got a
Any
little bit
questions?
tight.
Everything is good.
All right, any questions on any of the social media platforms at all, by chance?
No, nothing.
Beautiful. All right, TikTok, we apologize for any kind of movement you're seeing over here. We want to make sure that you all can see us.
It's not an earthquake, don't worry.
Not an earthquake. That's actually really good, Eric. He cracks me up all the time.
Eric is a-
All right, so Lauren,
Yes.
again, we've got some questions written down for you.
Yes.
Please feel free to kind of dive into in different levels of this whole conversation here.
Absolutely.
So, buying a multifamily, Eric actually made a good point. People have not been able to buy single-family homes,
Absolutely.
no homes available. They're buying an investment property for the first time. They've never bought an investment property. You have lots of things happening in the whole process of buying a house. But from
Sure.
a legal side, in the background, where you're gonna be protecting the clients,
Mhm.
what is an assignment of lease?
Sure, so I'm gonna take 2 steps back.
Yes, please.
And I think you raised an excellent point. So sort of what my focus is gonna be applicable whether you are somebody who is specifically buying an investment property that you're never gonna live in, or you couldn't find a single family, and so you're gonna buy a multifamily, and you're gonna live in one unit and rent other,
Owner occupied, yep.
Yeah, owner occupied and rent, other units. And the first thing that we're looking at when you're gonna, purchase a multifamily is the due diligence we do on the back end at the attorney's office. And historically, outside Fairfield County, you only ever looked at a title search. You go into the land records and you run the title, and that was the end of it. But as, we've talked about technology, as things evolve, we are sort of adding due diligence to address new and different risks. So what we're looking at now, if you're gonna buy a multifamily, if you have a client who says, I'm buying a 3-family in New Haven,
Yes.
I'm gonna search title, I'm gonna search the building department, planning, zoning, conservation, fire marshal, health department.
Wow.
There may be another one that I'm forgetting. So we get a better picture of whether there's any types of violations for the home. And then we're also gonna request a zoning compliance letter from the zoning office. Because if you're buying what you think is a 3-family, and we find out from zoning that it's only zoned for 2 families or single families, that becomes a problem.
That becomes a big
So the
problem.
zoning is different from what they're listing it as, because I mean, we've seen houses that they list as a 2-family, and then when we get in there, and there's 3 units, and they're
Yeah.
like confused,
Yeah.
Right.
you know?
And
But
sometimes,
they're selling it as a 2-family,
yeah,
they're not saying anything about the third one. It's like,
right, and we
They
may
believe
then
you didn't see
find,
this.
we
Right.
may then find something that says illegal 3rd floor unit.
Oh,
So that's why we're now looking for these additional bits of information from the town.
importance.
Yes, because you don't want to buy what you think is a 2-family and it turns out it's zoned for an office and an apartment.
Huh.
So that's sort of where we're starting. You've signed a contract to buy this multifamily. That's sort of the due diligence that we're gonna be looking at, because we wanna make sure that once you buy your multifamily,
Yes.
that you can actually rent it.
Absolutely. I mean, you could be an owner occupied and have also people renting inside there.
Sure, sure.
But you still need to make sure that it's labeled and actually what you're buying, it's what you're buying.
So is
Right.
the zoning that's listed on the MLS not always accurate?
Correct.
It is, it's possible that
Well,
it's not accurate.
I've seen it. We had this happen
Okay.
last week, where it was listed as a duplex, and then when we got back to zoning, zoning had it listed as office and an apartment.
You know, it's interesting you said the word duplex, and this is not a question to put you on the spot, but I know that I get confused, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you at all. Duplex is also a multifamily, but it's not, like, depending on how duplex could be,
I
right?
think it's considered a
Is
multifamily,
it?
because if you own it and you live in it, there's gonna be another family that lives there. So I think multi encompasses a duplex.
Yeah, I think it does fall under multifamily,
Mhm.
but because of the levels,
Right.
because the house is divided in half, what's
Mhm.
left and right, as opposed to up
Is
and
that
down.
is that what the listing difference is?
Yeah, duplex
Interesting.
is
It's
the
always
units
side
are
by
next to
side.
each other.
But you can also
Correct.
buy a
Interesting.
half duplex, like, which is almost like a condo, right? Like, I've seen these, like,
Right.
house that's like a duplex, where 2 different families live in 2 different places, and they both own a half of the duplex.
Well, right, you can buy, there are homes where it's one house and it looks like a duplex.
Yeah,
But the property line goes through the middle of the house.
yeah.
So you and I are living in the same building, but I own my half and
Yeah.
you own your half.
And that's
It's
still
virtually
considered.
like a condo.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's,
Sort of,
but it's interesting how that really shouldn't fall into duplex or multi, because it really.
Well, in that situation, it wouldn't be a multi, because you'd be buying a single family house and it just
Right.
so happens to be
Right.
attached to another single family
Yeah,
house.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's a half duplex, yeah.
And we definitely have seen, like you mentioned before, where someone that says, sometimes it say it's a 3, it's a 2, or it's a 2 and it's
Yeah.
a 3, like you see that extra level.
Multis are often misrepresented.
Very common,
Yes.
I agree.
Very
So
common.
the fact that you guys dive really deep now, at what point does that happen in the process? Because, you're buying a house, you got a contract, is that like during inspection? I mean, that must be a lot of research to do, so when does it kind of come to fruition? Is
So
that-
we typically would do it, we would order that at the beginning of the deal.
Oh, good. Wow.
Unfortunately, depending on where you're purchasing the home is gonna determine what town we're dealing with to try to get that information. And right now, some towns take a long time. So we had a deal in New Haven, and we were looking about 60 days to get that zoning
Wow.
compliance letter.
Wow.
So now you're buying a house and you're looking to close in 30 days, right? Because your lender says, I can close in 30 days. The seller wants to sell in 30 days. But realistically, we have a hanging curveball that comes in,
Yeah.
realistically, that, well, you may not be able to find out legally if it's okay to close in
But
30
it's
days.
something the agent needs to know, because they're not gonna
Yeah.
write a contract for 30 days.
So that's where we come into the whole,
Now, you're misrepresenting that you're gonna close in 30 days.
Yeah, and I don't know if we've come up with a brilliant way to solve that doesn't involve a seller of a multifamily home getting that letter in advance.
so that's the only way in my brain that would actually make sense. So a seller, which is gonna be upset probably at first because I'm like, well, I have this.
Yeah.
And then, because they've had that for so long, but maybe it wasn't exactly that they bought. So let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Title insurance, when they bought that property,
Mhm.
would say that what they bought is what they bought, kind of.
So it's gonna depend on the title
Sorry,
insurance
that was
policy.
just-
That's okay, no. And the answer is maybe.
Right.
I'll tell you the legal answer is always it depends.
Depends.
100% of the time, the answer is it depends.
And that is true on everything in real
Even
estate.
really
daylight.
is.
He's like, I thought I was gonna learn something legal
No, no,
today,
no.
because it depends.
You just became a lawyer, it depends. Because it's very factual.
Right.
So, depending on when the home was purchased, I mean, there was a time not that long ago when, title insurance wasn't a thing.
Right.
There was also a time not that long ago when we didn't have zoning regulations. So if you've owned this house for, in your family going back to 1920,
Holy moly.
yeah, you're probably gonna come up
Yeah.
empty, as far as your ability to have some sort of title insurance coverage.
Right. That's.
But it's possible,
I have a question then. So, we write up a contract,
yes.
and in the area of the contract where we're indicating any riders or addendums or anything, is there a document, or can we stipulate,
Subject to.
subject to,
Zoning
Investigating.
compliance.
zoning?
For
Right.
sure.
Yeah,
And that would be
because
terrific
then
for
you're
me.
opening the window
Yeah,
to the chance that something like that has to go on.
Except in this market, are you looking to put any kind of things in there
Well,
that
right.
would make question, although
Yeah, but I
everybody,
mean, that's something that could burn you down the road.
but hold on, at the end of the day, it's still gonna come up down the road anyway, because of any attorney.
I don't know how many other attorneys do that type of due diligence on a residential property. So
Wow.
you may have a lawyer for a buyer who just does a title search and maybe a building department search. They may or may not do that full suite of municipal departments.
Mhm.
I don't know how many other attorneys right now are doing zoning compliance letters on multifamily.
So if you're buying a multifamily, first of all, let's start with the fact that it'd be great to work with us, we would love to work with you and our team. But more importantly, how important your attorney plays a role. People, it's funny, how often a buyer is buying something for several $100,000, and you recommend an attorney, they go, well, how much do they charge? And I go, you're buying the most expensive thing in your whole life. You want the best legal representation for you to protect you. And the first question they go is, how much do you charge?
Yeah.
I don't think they understand the gravity
They don't
of what
understand.
the attorney's role is in
Absolutely.
the buying process, so.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind.
Yeah.
So this is a massive piece of information for you out there who are looking to buy a multifamily home, in addition to a single family, but this is a really great piece of knowledge that you're sharing with the world about this whole process.
For sure.
So when you're buying a house, again, so going back to that whole thing, Eric, you're writing down any kind of extra addendums on a purchase, you just opened up,
Yeah.
maybe I'm gonna go with that person.
Right.
But at the same time, there should be knowledge from the agent to agent saying, hey, before, did you have your property checked out, and what's their proper word?
Zoning compliance
Zoning
letter,
compliance.
yes.
I'm 95% sure that if I write that on a contract, the other agent's gonna call me going, what the heck is that?
What is it, and we're gonna take another offer.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
That's market condition,
Right,
yeah.
market condition,
right,
so,
right.
but it's something that I think, but attorney, that's all as an attorney,
Mhm.
and then you bring that to their attorney's hands, and then they have marbles in their mouth because they don't even know what they're talking about, right? Now they have to learn something new. So
Well, I
attorneys,
don't know that they have to learn something new, but they probably didn't expect it
right,
on a residential property.
this is really interesting stuff. I mean, your knowledge is power is an understatement,
Yes,
you know?
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, and to Eric's point, you can put in your contract that you want this contract to be subject to your attorney getting the zoning compliance letter. And the other side may say, go kick rocks.
Right,
Well, at least now you can have a conversation between you, the attorney, and the client about, we can put this in, it's not gonna get your offer accepted, what are we gonna, and have a thorough and thoughtful discussion about
Right.
why we do this and what we're looking for.
by not putting the contract though, it doesn't mean it wouldn't happen, would it?
No,
No, I'm only speaking to the effect where Lauren said that in some towns it could take up to 60 days.
Right, that's,
So if you're putting 30 days to close,
Right.
and it's day 29,
Right.
and they say, are you ready to close, and you're gonna say, no, we haven't gotten our,
well,
Right.
and I think at that point, to be fair to that other side, when we're asking those, or they're asking them, they wouldn't be asking that question at that point because they probably already had heard from Lauren, right, regarding these questions, their attorney.
well, we would do.
it doesn't get presented to the side though.
Yeah, so when
No, 'cause
I,
they're doing their
Right.
search with the municipalities and the local, you know.
right, so I have nothing really to bring to another attorney until the searches come back. Now, we will typically give the other side a heads up, are you ready to schedule? No, we're still waiting on fire marshal's report or zoning compliance letter.
Right,
And sometimes they'll say, well, why?
right, that's very interesting
But-
stuff.
Yeah.
So important to have a great realtor working for you, and a great, even more important, or just as important.
Just as important.
To have a great attorney who has very much knowledge in this process. So this is buying a multifamily.
Yes.
I had some of the questions that I
You
leave
do,
out too,
yes.
sorry. How does the tenant security deposit get transferred to me at closing, me being the buyer?
Correct.
Skip the question. What is an assignment of lease?
That was the first
So,
question I asked.
so
Oh,
yeah, no,
that was- okay.
I'll circle
I'm
back to
sorry.
that. No,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
that's all right. So we've gone through zoning compliance.
Yes, sorry, you're right.
So when you're looking as a buyer at
I
a
forgot that I didn't miss the
multifamily,
question. I'm
when
sorry.
you're looking to buy, I think probably
Yes.
the first thing a buyer is wanting to know is, what is the rent?
Yes,
Is it current?
right,
And then is there a security deposit?
right, good point.
Because that's pretty important if you're buying this, particularly as an investment.
Yeah.
But really, anytime you're buying a home and you are gonna be dependent on that rental income to cover your carrying costs, you wanna have a good feel for what that is. And typically, that would be shown, I know that there's an
Rent roll.
addendum, a rent,
Well, there's a rent roll.
well, there's, I think, a multifamily rider.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That
well,
you
the
guys
family rider.
have.
Yeah,
Super important, because the standard uniform contract says the house is gonna be conveyed empty.
that's right.
So empty,
But
empty.
most of the time, you don't want it conveyed empty,
Well,
as an
it-
investor.
but if you've got tenants and you know the tenants are gonna be there, then we know it's not empty.
So on the purchase contract, it says it's being conveyed empty,
Yeah.
technically speaking,
Exclusive possession.
but the lender, the bank doesn't want to convey it empty, so using that income for the buyer to get that
Right.
mortgage
Right.
and also for the rent roll.
Right.
So that's another piece of the puzzle that you just
Mhm.
mentioned over here, and the fact that there is that rider, multifamily rider or rent roll rider, to kind of show that the tenant has some kind of deposit and
Right.
current on their rent
Super important to have.
and the lease.
and the lease.
And the lease.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things I'm gonna ask for when you send me your client and they're buying a multifamily, I wanna see the lease. I wanna see, is there a multifamily rider? How many tenants are we talking about? Is there any sort of money that's been held as security deposit?
Right,
You'd be surprised how often I'm told there was no security deposit.
because the security deposit was probably spent, even though it's illegal to be spent.
Well, then what we do as we approach closing is we ask the seller, go to your tenant,
Go to
get
your
me a
tenant.
letter from your tenant that says they didn't actually pay a security
Right,
deposit.
right,
Because when my client has purchased that home and that tenant moves out and goes, where's my $3,000 security
Right, I
deposit?
want
They're gonna
documentation.
turn around and look at me and go, where was my $3,000 security deposit?
right, you're gonna say, you didn't have a security deposit.
Right.
Yeah, actually, good point.
So assignment of lease, when you have somebody with a lease, that seller has certain rights and obligations, we wanna make sure that those rights and obligations transfer to buyer. So that will typically get done at closing, along with, we call it an estoppel letter from the tenant that confirms, I pay X number, I paid an X deposit, I pay $1,800 a month rent, I'm not ahead, I'm not behind on the rent, so that we can sort of piece together from the landlord side and the tenant side sort of what the situation is, so that when your buyer now becomes the new landlord, they're not inheriting
The whole thing is
some
kosher.
disaster. Exactly.
A kosher situation.
Love it. Yes.
Eric, you want to shoot another question at Lauren?
No, I've used up all my questions.
All right, so, let's see, can I buy the property in the same name of an LLC? I'm sorry, can I buy the property in the name of the LLC? I'm sorry, I can't read.
No, that's okay. And that is gonna be up to, by and large, your lender.
Okay.
The lender, sometimes lenders want you to buy things in your own name, and sometimes they'll allow you to close in the name of your LLC. It is helpful if you wanna do that to already have your LLC formed.
Right, and that is something that a buyer can set up with you prior to, or is it not with you? How does that work? We're getting
We don't
LLC.
usually do LLCs.
So,
How
how does,
It's an easy process to do online.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah?
I think you can do it through maybe the Secretary of State.
Yeah,
think-
well, you can incorporate any state too.
Oh, yeah, you don't even
Most
have
of-
to be
most of-
Connecticut LLC.
Most of them are gonna do it in Delaware because the laws are lax for LLC in Delaware.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Can you live in Connecticut and have an LLC from
Yes.
Delaware?
Yes.
Absolutely. You can
Wow.
incorporate any state, yeah. So,
Yeah.
he doesn't know,
Very knowledgeable in.
He also became a lawyer earlier
yeah,
today.
I didn't go to law school, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Oh, that's actually funny.
No, so, you had just mentioned that sometimes the lender will ask if you have the LLC in advance, but a lot of my clients, their LLCs are named after the house.
Yeah,
So they're not gonna
they
start an
haven't created it,
LLC
yeah.
for that house until they actually acquire the house.
Sure.
But it's a fairly quick process,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and ultimately, it's gonna depend on the lender, because they have the money. And
Right.
so,
Mhm.
they tell us how we close.
They get to make the final decision
Yeah.
if they're comfortable with their whole process.
Yeah,
They get documentations that you have an LLC, it looks good to them, they're
Mhm.
comfortable, and then a lender, of course, yeah. go ahead.
Yeah, but it could be under the person's name, but the deed or whatever is gonna be filed with the LLC, no?
yeah, they'll typically do some sort of co-signing individually,
Mhm.
and it would close in the name of the LLC. We see it sometimes with trusts too. Sometimes people wanna close in the name of their trust, gotta go to the bank, bank's gotta say it's okay.
It's gotta be kosher.
Gotta be kosher.
It's gotta make sure everything's
Yeah,
just the way it's supposed to be.
It's
nobody
legal
wants a
term.
problem later.
Nobody wants any problems.
Yeah.
I don't want a problem now, I don't want a problem later, I wanna make sure.
Never.
And when you're buying a property, it's already so many concerns to begin with, the
Yeah.
nervousness, and, I mean, a lot of investors though, sometimes don't even get involved in the property at all, because they're buying the property that moving into the property.
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes people buy these investment properties, not even ever seen the property, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But that happens more and more today than ever before. They look at I'll call it the rent roll, and they see that everything seems to be in good shape. You know, they see that the numbers work, and they buy the
Sure.
property. And
Well,
that's
it's-
it.
For most of them, it's about the cap rate, so,
Cap rate,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's all about the cap rate.
But you know, the first time someone said, I don't care what the house looks like, I don't care. If the numbers work, the rent's coming in,
Yeah.
boom, I'm buying it. And I get it, you know, it's all about the cap rate, the rent roll, and making sure that everything's running smoothly there. People are paying their rent.
Yeah,
And today the rents are insane how much
I've
they are.
heard.
I mean, I've never seen the amount of money people get for rent. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Which is why it's a great time to buy instead of rent. We'll talk more about that. in a
Yeah.
Skip question 5, because we already did that.
Okay, so we have one more question for you, Lauren.
The tax time coming up.
Yes. Go ahead, Eric, you go. Give it to Lauren.
No, I teed it up for you, go ahead.
You're keeping everybody in suspense about the tax question.
Tax time is coming up in July 1st. How do you handle taxes at closing normally? And is there anything different that gets done around the tax time the bills are due?
Okay, so the vast majority of people who buy homes with a mortgage will have their property tax bill rolled into their mortgage payment.
Yes.
It's called an escrow.
Yes.
So when you make your mortgage payment every month, part of that payment is gonna sit in a lender's escrow account, and when it's time for your property taxes to be paid, the lender takes your money out of that account and they pay your taxes for you. So normally when you close, part of your closing cost is fronting some money to start a balance for your escrow account. When you are closing at this time of year, taxes are due in July. Most people, if you are closing this month, your first mortgage payment isn't until August.
Right.
Which means no money goes in or out of that escrow account until August,
Good point.
which is when your taxes are late in
Right.
August.
Oh,
So what we do is if you're closing in June,
Yes.
we're gonna collect as part of your closing costs, the July tax bill, and we hold it at the firm,
Oh, really?
and then we go and pay your taxes.
That's
So this way, we
fantastic.
know that July taxes get paid, lender's happy, and you're not delinquent for taxes coming out of escrow in August after they would normally be, they're overdue.
That's pretty wild stuff, and you must have a great person involved in that department. Is that you personally?
It is not me personally, it's a team effort, it's a
Because
team
I was gonna
effort.
say, that's a lot of pressure.
It is, yeah,
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
You know, from a mathematics standpoint of how important a timeline of, you know, like you said, you're gonna buy now, you're gonna close, and your first payment is due in August, September. You gotta make sure that money's there in.
right, so part of your closing costs, if you're closing in June, is gonna be 6 months of taxes to pay your January bill. In most towns, we've got a couple of towns where it's gonna be quarterly, Wallingford and Meriden do taxes backwards because they're special. But for most people, it's sort of good to know you've gotta calculate or estimate you're gonna be bringing in another 6 months of taxes, plus 2 months to put in escrow. But the good news is, we're gonna take care of it and make sure your taxes get paid in July before they're delinquent.
That's pretty
So a
amazing.
closing in May is the same or no?
So if you close in May, your first payment is July, because when you make that July payment, that covers all of June.
Depending when actually in May too could make a difference, right?
Well, at that point, it depends on the lender. Some lenders,
But who's making the 6-month tax payment to the,
so some lenders will have it come out of your escrow account, because you will have a payment starting in July, which means money will start coming in and out of escrow in July. So some lenders will have the 6 months come out in July, and they'll pay it out of your escrow account.
right,
Other lenders don't wanna have that responsibility, and then we collect it just like we do in June. We hang on to it in the trust account, and then we go and pay it in July.
so somebody who closes May 30th, their July taxes are going to be, it's going to be for the year, right? What they paid and
In May,
what was in escrow?
it would be typically 6 months for the July payment plus a month or two for escrow.
And you guys hold the money to make sure it gets taken care of.
Right.
You know, the lenders, do they love that? Cause that sounds
Well,
like a
the
great
lenders
business.
require it.
Oh,
The
okay.
lenders, we get instructions from the lenders that tell us how the closings have to go, and they will typically require that if you have a tax bill that's due within 60 days of closing, we have to ensure that it gets
I
paid.
would never I never thought to myself that the attorneys would have to hold the money. That puts a lot of pressure on you, the attorney.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, you wanna kinda take the money, cake it, and just keep it going, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's one more step.
And that's something that we have to be cognizant of, that when we're writing our contracts in February and March, or
Yes.
April,
Mhm.
that we're closing at a certain time, and
Right.
because they're gonna be like, wait, how much do I have to bring to closing? You
Right.
Well,
know,
and this time
Right.
of year,
And why?
it's difficult.
you know,
Because most towns don't have a tax bill set for July yet, because July's the first, it's the new installment, new
Right,
bill
right, right.
in July. At least if we go through this in December, at least in December, you can kind of estimate with your client based on what the current bill is.
Mhm.
But you're still bringing in a big chunk of money because you've got that January tax payment.
Wow. Lauren Scott and Bailey Hirschman, a genius in the law department of real estate for sure.
That's very generous of
And somebody you definitely want to talk to. Her cell phone is out there. This is not a dating service. Definitely real estate related. I'm
Yes.
just saying in advance. Don't want Seamus to get upset.
you. My boyfriend would be very.
I
you
hope
got-
he's
gotta get through
watching.
Seamus first.
I was gonna say, I hope that Seamus is. You think Seamus is watching tonight?
He might be.
Seamus, thank you so much for having her here tonight. You probably love all the conversations at home about law.
Yeah.
Does he ever ask you questions at all, like, or is he just like, no work?
No, not usually. Not usually.
Because I know my wife, when I come home, it's like, all right, like she asks you about my day,
He does. He always asks me about my day.
but does he
Sometimes he
really
regrets
want to?
it.
Does he really want to know the answer? He asks you, and then you start going. He's like, and yeah, it was not like, you know.
So, yeah, sometimes it takes a hard left.
Yeah,
It
it's
depends on what
hard
kind of
left.
day it's been. Yeah.
All right, so we are at the next part of our podcast. We give out
Okay.
a free tumbler to a lucky winner watching the show, and they get to go on a wheel, a spinning wheel. So we have
they don't go on the wheel, their name is on the wheel.
Their name is
That's
Yeah.
merciful of you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we tried putting them on the wheel, but it didn't work out very
Yeah.
well. Yeah,
Oh my God, that's funny. I love
Yeah.
it.
I could see how that would be frowned upon.
So their name is on the wheel. That was awesome.
Just a wheel of fortune.
Oh my
wheel.
Yeah.
gosh. I can
yeah,
even
it's like
see
holding the
this
wheel.
one.
Yeah. I'm sure they have some carnival rides like that, you know?
I just totally get the visual of people like, oh, like you're stacked up on this. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
And the thing slapping in the head.
Do you know we
as
didn't
they
we
go
didn't even
by.
drink before this show.
And this
I
is
know.
a hard left turn.
Boom. Yeah, exactly. All right.
Well, we're off topic. Go
we're
ahead.
off topic.
Finish
Hey,
finish your
are
spiel.
Are we on the spinning wheel of fortune over here? By the way, here Pat Sajak.
Fortune.
Pat Sajak is retiring. I heard.
Yes.
Yeah, Wheel of Fortune.
Wow.
Yes,
I don't know how old he is, but he's been in it for a long time.
40 years.
40 years.
Wow.
40 years.
That is
That's awesome.
that's crazy. I think he probably could be in his 20s, maybe. Who knows?
Funny, I don't know why you guys can't.
Very fair.
But you can't.
Okay.
We might have Anthony Imperati.
Anthony
On
Imperati
Instagram.
off Instagram, the winner
You know?
of. I think that sounds very familiar to me. Could be a past
It
blank.
sounded,
Yeah.
it sounded familiar.
Again.
Too.
Again.
Anthony
Yeah.
Imperati. We want to thank you so. Anthony. We want to thank you so much for winning this beautiful tumbler. As a matter of fact, it's going to be this beautiful tumbler. Please reach out to us. Let us know that you saw this episode. You want your tumbler. We want to send it to you. Special care package via Team
Well,
Powerhouse.
depending on where Anthony is, you may even hand deliver it.
Could be a hand
Could have been.
delivery.
It could be in Staven.
It could be David, that's right. Everybody, thank you so much for watching this amazing show. Get a chance to meet Lauren Scotton, Jay Hirschman, who left to go see his son's baseball game. Amazing attorneys, very knowledgeable, and let's make sure you have their office number as well. That is 203-272-7000. Do we have an extension for Lauren?
222.
Oh, that was an easy one.
Oh, yeah.
So 203-272-7000 extension 222.
You got it.
Just make your Lauren your direct contact for all your real estate needs. If they have questions, can they send an email to you?
Yeah.
What's your email address?
lscotton@bhhlegal.com.
That would be L.
SCOTTON@bhhlegal.com.
She is fantastic, very knowledgeable, and it's going to be an asset to you looking to buy a house or sell a house.
That's right. Buy,
Right.
sell, refi. That's what I
Buy,
do.
sell, refi.
Buy, sell, refi.
Awesome stuff. Eric, great show today.
I know.
Yeah, it's all good.
Learned a lot of information today.
For sure.
And we always learn something new, which is the best
Yep,
part about the
for
podcast.
sure. Which
Have
makes
fun.
us supreme agents.
Super.
Yes.
Premier agents.
I love it. I love it. Premiere.
Yeah.
Can't talk anymore. Have a wonderful guys. Have a wonderful guys.
Wonderful guy.
Talk.
See what we gotta deal with?
You
Oh my God.
guys have a great night.
Have a great night. It's like the movie. What's it called? What was that movie with the weatherman? He does that. You have to control in the background with the guy from The Office.
Ron Burgundy or
Oh my God, the guy from The Office. Wasn't that the movie, The Weatherman, where they had
Anchorman?
Anchorman, Weatherman.
Ron Burgundy.
Yes.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
was hilarious.
And
Can't
Brick.
get that movie.
Brick, he's the weatherman. Yes, and he gets scared when he's wearing green in front of the camera.
No, but they controlled his voice and he couldn't get the voice out of his mouth. That's a different movie. I confused.
Yeah, Dave's confused, so.
All right, everybody.
Hey, thanks, everybody.
We'll see you guys later. Next week, we have a very special show, by the way. We have Lily Donatello from the Hartford Athletics meeting us. It's going to be an amazing show. The Hartford Athletics. Can't wait to see you guys next week. You're not going to miss it.